motion that we approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second that motion.
Do we want to, second, all those in favor? Alrighty, we got that. The next Board of Selectmen meeting will be Monday, April 22nd at 5:30 here in the town office. Under Selectmen's comments announcements, I simply wanted to say that the workshop that we had last Wednesday, in which we had hoped to clarify issues of workflow and accountability between the school office and the town office, reached no conclusions, and we have reached out to our attorneys for assistance in problem solving. Is there public comment? Alrighty, on to business. First item, the investment committee.
Okay,
You have some recommendations
we
for
do,
us?
and a few other things to go over later. We have $150,000 CD that matured last week, so we're recommending to put that into another CD. Our first pick is Denham Institution, which is the oldest savings bank in the United States, and the rate is 2.35. Our second choice is the Mechanic Savings of Auburn, Maine, and that's 2.3. Just a note on that, we're looking at our summary of the account holdings right now. Currently, the money market, where the money is sitting right now, is earning 2.4, it's earning more, because that's based on federal notes. Of course, that could change in 30 days, but the other thing, we also have two other notes that are coming due in July. One on the 19th for $100,000, and one on the 26th of July for $100,000. And then there's a question of other funds, which is our question to you folks. Will the warrant, well, two, I should say, not all warrant. One thing, there's still the funds being held in one of the general accounts for the sale of Wayne Farm. Do you folks want to move that money from there to here? The treasurer tells us right now that's earning, the fund it's in right now is earning 2.2. If it's in the money market with the investment, it's 2.4%. So if that money is going to be, say, used for a fire truck 9 months from now or something, 9 months at 0.2% is still a little bit of change that the town could be earning versus sitting where it is now. It's earning an okay rate, but currently the rate we have, the money market account, is a little bit higher. And there was talk about moving that money, the wind farm proceeds, into this account. It looks like it's a better deal at the moment, the regular account the town has for holding money versus this account. So that's just a, we can't do it, you folks do, but we're hoping you guys discuss it and decide what you're gonna do with the wind farm money.
You're recommending that, your recommendation is
Well,
that we move
it gets down to also fire trucks. So the other thing is where you are on the budget, the warrant items. Is there gonna be money in the warrant to come back in? For instance, in past, taken money from tax sales on property and use that instead of going to the town for the 50,000 payback. We use that money instead. So some of it was used for the budget, some of it went into this fund, because the goal is to put 50,000 back so that we make up for what we pulled out for salt and sand shed, and continue having the fund gain back, so when we have something big like the fire truck. So that's our question, you folks, what's happening in the warrant? And the third thing is the fire truck. We gather, the town will be going out for RFP or bids or whatever in the next few months. And what's the schedule? How much money do we need to be liquid? For instance, so if sometime this summer the town's looking at awarding a contract, and we need, we're talking half a million, need a sizable down payment, say $100,000, then one of the CDs that mature in July, we wouldn't invest it, we just keep it in the money market. And then the town treasurer can pull it because it's an interbank, because the money is within the town's banking institution of Androscoggin, can pull it out of the investment money market fund and put it quickly into the town's operating checking account and cut a check for the deposit. So these are the kind of questions we have, is if you folks can give us, shed a little light on where some of those things are, or we just continue talking, because it's still too early, for the budget process, but those are the things that come to mind for us. The other thing we did tonight is we looked, our annual look at the town investment policy, and we didn't see any changes need to be made or anything else. We're following it much better than we did originally, let's put it that way. We got the town treasurer much more involved in this, and how we communicate more. Well, we have more people on the email string now, let's put it that way. So everybody knows what's going on. And we got it where our trust officer is, when we go into the meetings now, we have, besides material that we need to pick CDs, we have the statement of the account. And the town treasurer can now get that through the internet at any time. So we have a much better handle on where we stand at any moment in time, if we need to know that. You folks and us. So that's pretty much it. Depending on what happens, we're looking at, so we have 2 CDs due, or maturing in mid and then late July. Do we meet then? And what comes up with the town warrant? So we may be meeting in July, again, meet with you folks, and maybe not till August. It really, your first meeting in August. It depends on what's happening here. Whether money maybe just go in and sit in the money market account, like I said, it's earning 2.4 right now, or does it need to get placed, or how much it needs to get placed. So we're just playing it by ear. We're not setting a time certain for us to get together, but most likely it's going to be towards the second half of July, or your first meeting in August. We'll get together and then come to you with recommendations then. So that's pretty much it for us. This is our official recommendation sheet.
The official recommendations are,
So, yeah, so they are, can read Paul's hand. Denham Institution for Savings at 2.35. And the second choice is Mechanic Savings of Auburn, Maine, which is for 2.3. And the first one would mature April 17th of 2020, and the second one, April 24th of 2020. So they're basically 1-year CDs.
do you have a motion to make those, give those instructions to the treasurer?
I make a motion that we proceed with the recommendations from the investment committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? So, Christine, could you convey that information to the treasurer, please? Thank you. And let's put the update on the fire truck and all that on the agenda for next time.
I think by the time we get through town meeting and deal with the bid process, it probably won't be until August that we're putting a down payment on the truck, so. I think that falls in line with the investment committee's schedule.
Do we wanna talk about putting the wind farm into the money market? in the meantime?
Is that, I don't remember. Is that for us to decide, or is that a town meeting decision? Is that why the money's just sitting there? Because we missed town meeting?
Well,
That might be,
that's probably the case, that
yeah,
they haven't been on the warrants in the past.
not the sale, because that was
Not
after
the
town
sale,
meeting.
that
No,
was
I mean, but
town meeting.
moving the money into
It's up, it
investments.
hasn't been decided before at town meeting. what
Okay.
money's to put
We
in.
should do that then, we should put that on the town warrant.
It's a policy decision, so however you wanna handle it is fine. It wouldn't be illegal to just go ahead and make the decision on your own. But I wasn't sure what the custom was here.
Well, I don't know, in the gray areas, but the public sentiment was that the fund was established specifically for a finite amount of money
Yeah.
that the town of Bath most generously donated.
Right,
And the intent and the talk has been to continue to add to it as windfalls come our way, but we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
I think probably talking about having a vote at town meeting might be the wise thing. Did you have an
I
idea?
had a comment to make on
Yeah.
that, because we did discuss this in the investment committee meeting, which we held just previous to yours, that we, as a committee, it's not our decision to make, but as a committee recommended that we never exceed in this long-term capital fund a number that is $880,000.
Mhm.
I don't know that the selectmen ever approved that, but it was a recommendation we made. I don't know where it stood in terms of any decision, but that's neither here nor there. My point is simply this: at this point, we have $614,000 in the account. So if 880 was good guidance, if you wanted to add that into this account, it wouldn't exceed any limit that we had arbitrarily decided made sense. And that made sense because it was what was left after the RSU one settlement, plus, if you remember, a year later, almost a year later, when RSU one finally closed the books on our participation in RSU one, there was a settlement amount. When that was added to what was in the account at the time, it came to approximately 880,000. So that was what we thought was a reasonable upper limit for that.
Okay.
So I think if you go to warrant, you know, people say, well, what's gonna get the fund? Say, you know, with 614, and you put in 200,000, say, whatever. And that gets us up to 814, so we're getting close to the limit, then we turn around, within 45 days, we pull 100,000 plus out for deposit on the truck, and then within 9 months, you're pulling out $500,000. The fund's getting down to about $250,000. And we're back into building up mode for the next capital item.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's not sitting there long.
I would point out that from the RSU funds that we originally got, that the wind farm mortgage was paid out of those funds, so in some sense,
Okay, sounds back.
putting the wind farm money back into the fund has some, yeah,
Reasonableness.
it makes sense, and that would be my personal preference, but, it's, money that came off the tax roll, from non-performing, tax assets, and it's the public's funds, and two things can happen to it: either it goes into the investment fund for use, fire truck or whatever, which makes the most sense to me anyway, or it can go to offset the individual tax, burden, and I think that's a,
Which gets back to the discussion we had at the town meeting that this fund was created.
yeah,
You remember my spreadsheet?
Yep.
So if you don't do this, and the end, you're gonna spend more money. You've got a nice hit one year on
Well,
the
we'll
mill
have to-
rate, and then you kill yourself the next 5 to 10
Yeah.
years.
We'll have to, do it again at town meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It also is a way of eliminating having all kinds of different capital fund accounts. If you have this fund the town can use for so-called capital accounts, you only have a half a dozen different capital accounts. It's one fund, you get a better rate, and I wouldn't be objecting to it, you know. If it goes over $880,000, so be it. The town's earning interest, it's sitting there, so it's a good deal.
I think for the time being, the issue needs to go before town
Town
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Town meeting isn't that far away.
No, it's
I
not.
know.
Let's move on to the certification of boundary questions. Christine, you've been doing some research?
Yes, I spoke with Sally about it. She was traveling today, so she didn't put anything in writing yet, but it would be her recommendation that we just have the county commissioners determine the boundary.
Yeah.
And she'll get something to me when she can.
Okay. So we can just go ahead and make that request. Should we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that we have the county commissioner determine the boundary line between West Bath and Bath.
I second it.
Any further discussion?
Where's the boundary in question?
We don't know where the boundary is?
It's the.
We don't. There's a
Oh,
missing,
wait, Wing Farm?
there's a missing monument in that, in the Wing Farm area.
Are the
So,
lines missing on the plan?
It's not the Wing Farm plan.
it's not the Wing Farm plan, it's where the town boundary is, it's in question.
Okay.
The mark is gone, and it's been filled in apparently.
Right, but a surveyor can put it back if it's on a plan.
There is no plan,
There is no plan?
no. It's 1844, it was the high water mark where the roadbed of the Old Brunswick Road what met. And it was-
Okay,
And it was the center of the bridge.
okay.
They tore out.
Yeah, no, I get the weird ones, I just know that the subdivision plan had the lines on it, and it had the town line on it, but
Yeah.
that's why I was
kinda
talking
buggy.
about the plans.
Yeah, it's just kind of
Okay.
buggy.
Never mind.
All in favor of referring the issue to the county commissioners? All right, we've got that one taken. The next item is tax acquired property. We have a couple of parcels that might be profitable for the town to sell.
We actually have 7 parcels total that can be sold if you wish, with a total of approximately $500,000 of assessed value that we can put out to auction or handle in any way that you'd like. There's a few pieces near the transfer station. These parcels right there that are land only. There's the Angursky Road property and a Rockweed Road property.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what your plan was, if you wanted to look at selling all of them or just a few.
The last time we met, we talked about maybe dividing it up, so we could not have all the money at once, maybe. I don't know if we still,
Well, we had talked most recently, as I recall, about doing the Angursky Road property and Rockweed.
Yep.
At one time, and then there's that interesting piece down on,
wasn't this on down right?
Rosedale,
Yeah.
which, has a interesting enough, so it probably isn't useful to auction it.
But didn't we have a
We did
buyer?
have, we did have people who were interested, who are others.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to look at the tax cards, but this is the one for Rockland with the tax information. And this is Inversky. And it's possible that abutters might be interested in the other parcels.
Tiny, tiny. That's a tiny, tiny lot. This one looks like a small lot. Well, the lot on, Rockleaf is small. But, the building, yeah, the building's in very sad shape. You've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah. It doesn't look this good anymore. I think we should move on those two pieces this spring or summer.
And how about the Rosedale, because we did have a lot of interest, and I just wondering if we should.
We should contact the people who had contacted us. We can get you that information.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Is that notifying the abutters of the property at Kings Point?
Yes, yeah. It's probably a piece of property that might only be of value to the people who own contiguous lots. But, I think they might be more interested in the Inversky Road and particularly Rockweed. And it's, neither of those properties are doing us any good just sitting there, so.
For the Rockweed Road especially, the butter to the,
North.
yeah, has asked, to be kept in the loop,
Yes,
and we should make sure that we follow through on that.
agreed. Shall we have a motion? To, begin the process, yes?
So, just so I understand the process with these assets, if you will, of the town, will you notify all abutters for these properties? And will you plan to auction them, or have you decided that yet?
Well, we haven't decided, but more likely than not, it'll be auctioned. That's what we've done in the past.
Does that include, that includes a public advertisement?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
So
So
now-
there are
so-
one or two parcels that, the circumstances surrounding them, it wouldn't make any sense to try to sell it to somebody to become a house lot. It would make more sense for a butter to take it over for, say, a sewer easement or something like that.
Yeah.
So those would be the exception to an auction situation.
But you don't see that as a direction, or you do?
Well, we don't know yet.
All right. And I guess my next question would be, at what point would you determine that?
Probably then, most definitely before town meeting, we would decide what our intent is.
The reason I ask is I'm one of the abutters, so
Oh, okay,
Of which property?
the rockweed,
Yes.
yeah.
okay. So that's two abutters who are interested.
It's, if you've seen it, you know what it's like. It's not in good shape, and,
Right.
I'm not actually sure that anything can be done with it. It's such a small parcel.
Well, it's structured, you can build right on the footprint, and you can actually expand 30% from that.
Right.
So you can, it has possibilities, it's not worthless. Your name, sir?
Brad, Worth.
And I do have an email list going for interested parties, so I will be sure to add you on that, since I know that you're on my regular list, so,
Yeah,
yes.
that's why I asked.
All right.
I wanna make sure you were in the loop.
I'm on it.
Okay.
Yeah, as people come forward and ask questions, I make sure to get their email, so when things like this meeting come up, I can let them know, so. I've only got a few, but.
Okay.
we do have some interest.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have that property working for us rather than against us. Did we have a motion?
I didn't motion anything.
So, do we need to talk more, or do we want to start the public notification? Which way do we want to go?
Well, as I recall, the last time we were in touch with,
Keenan,
who would?
Keenan
Keenan
Auction.
Keenan Auction, yeah.
And then they'll tell us what they would like us to do and when the auction can be.
So will Christine, do we want Christine, do we have her call communication?
Sure.
We love it when she makes phone calls
Okay.
for us.
So I make a motion that we have Christine get in touch with Keenan Auction to start the process.
May I?
of-
You will get a better price if Dresden and some other towns are putting it out, not as a slam it down auction, but more of a typical sale. Not unlike what they would now wish to do with state, where foreclosures, where you no longer slap it down and it's a grab it while you can. Just get a better return if you treat it like a public sale. It's an asset you own, you don't have to do the old fashioned pop it open.
I don't understand.
Listed on the market, just.
Broker,
just
right,
real estate
auction.
broker.
Real estate broker?
Yeah, there's no reason you can't. Because the words that I hate in every town meeting are, as the selectmen see fit.
Well, perhaps we could amend the, motion to instruct Christine to investigate which possibilities would give us likely give us the most return.
I second that. And then maybe
So noted.
at next meeting, make determination.
Yeah, if we can get the information by next meeting, that'd be lovely.
Okay.
That was a motion, we should vote, all in favor? Thanks for the real estate advice, Mike. Next, on the agenda was the possible rules of procedure. Did you have a,
I did up a cute little two-sided sheet to hand out for review. You can mark it up or play with it any way